kingdom in a mixed up world. You're in the sweet spot, baby. You're in the sweet spot, girl. You're in the sweet spot, darling. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed up world. You're in the sweet spot, baby. You're in the sweet spot, girl. You're in the sweet spot, darling. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed up world. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed up world. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed up world.
Welcome to the Sweep Spot Podcast. My name is Lynn, your host, and Ken's my co-host. Ken, how's it going?
Oh, Lynn, it is going. It is going. I'm so happy to be here for another episode.
It is going on, right? This is episode 356.
356. That's incredible, Lynn. That's amazing. I can't believe it.
It is. Ken and I are both former Disneyland Custodial cast members, and we talk about Disneyland. We talk about Disneyland history, current events. We have former cast members on. We have Imagineers, former Imagineers. We have just a variety of different guests on our show that have to do with Disneyland, theme parks. And this is our main topic show. We also have a current event show that comes out on the alternate weeks that this show does not. So every other week. And we're also authors of the books Cleaning the Kingdom. We have two books out, both called Cleaning the Kingdom. We have volume 1 and 2. And you can get those on Amazon. But if you want to get them signed, you can get them on our website. But for right now, we only have the second book on our website signed. The first book will be signed, and those will be coming probably towards the end of this month. I'll have them back on the website. And the audiobooks that we had on our USB drives that we were selling, the first book is sold out. We have one more left of the second book. So if that's something you want, better get on it now. Yeah.
Belongs in a museum.
It might. And you can get the audiobooks though on Audible.
Snooze, you lose, you know. I mean, people had their chance. And you said audiobooks on Audible are also available, which is what we need those snazzy flash drives.
That's right. Also, we have a Patreon if you'd like to support our show and be a part of what we're doing. Really helps us out, pay for our bills. We have more and more. We're kind of using a newer technology now to record, and we that's another bill now. So if you want to help us,
costs money.
If you have the means and you want to help us, you also get one bonus episode per month, and you get to be a part of our live chat when we record our current events once a month. And that's a lot of fun. You get to enter your comments, and we'll read some of them as we're recording, and be in the chat room with the other Disneyland fans. And
that's a lot of fun, really.
Yeah,
it is great opportunity.
Yeah, and we'll be doing that on our next week. So if you're listening to this on the 7th or around then, on the 14th, we're going to be doing our next live chat, recording current events.
As you're feverishly doing your taxes. So,
yeah, that's right. We also have a new Patreon that joined us. I want to mention who this is. His name is Brian Crawford.
Ooh, good going. Thank you.
Yes,
thank you for supporting the show.
Yes, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
All that example, folks. Yes.
Yes. And that's for $5 more a month. You get what I mentioned earlier. Forgot to mention that. Also, I wanted to mention before we move on that I am a concierge travel planner, and I've been doing that for a year now. And if you'd like to book a vacation to Disneyland, Walt Disney World, Disney Cruise Line, Aulani in Hawaii, Disneyland Paris, also Adventures by Disney, and what else was it? Oh, and Universal, like in Orlando and Hollywood. So if you'd like to, you want to go to those places, I can book them for you. And I do all the heavy lifting. Like if you just give me your dates and where you want to go, and I can do all the research and find out. I can also do dining reservations for you if that's something you don't want to wake up at 6 a.m. to get your reservations. I will be there doing it for you. So yeah, even if it's something you think, I can book this vacation. I don't really need a planner. Let me do this for you. It doesn't cost you anything extra. And you get the advice and expertise of a former cast member and someone that's really knows Disneyland well and knows the Disney parks well too. So anyways, you can reach me at lbarron@concierge.com. That's LBARRON at concierge, CONCIEARS.com. Or you can go to our website, thesweetspot.com, and there's a link on there where you can contact me there. So Ken, who's our guest tonight?
Well, we're welcoming back somebody who was part of a panel before, Mel McGowan of Storyland Studios. So I'm looking forward to this. Mel is a wealth of information about environmental design, urban planning, that sort of thing. And he was heavily involved in some important things in upgrading the Disneyland Resort. So we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
With exciting adventures and countless wonders, the Disneyland Resort never fails to bring out the kid in all of us. Now, after undergoing an incredible expansion, you and your family can leave your worries behind and experience the magic like never before. Now, just because you've left the parks doesn't mean the magic has to end. The downtown Disney District is the perfect place to grab a bite to eat, shop around, and let loose with endless entertainment options just footsteps away from the theme parks of the Disneyland Resort.
We need to know your origin story. What is your background? Did you grow up going to Disneyland? How did you get interested in Disneyland?
Well, actually, yeah. Some of my earliest memories were Disney inspired or influenced. I was actually born in Saigon, Vietnam, and my dad was a GI, and so I have two really distinct early memories. Probably around the age of 3.5, 4. But one is bombs going off in Vietnam. That's kind of my earliest memory. But then the second one is, arriving in the States with my dad and him. I remember the second memory is looking down the lights at Main Street, USA. He had was moonlighting at Disney, and we got into the park, and just again those two early memories I think helped form some weird wiring in me of the world that I was used to living in, and a world that could and should be. So
wow.
So now you're involved in the demolition of theme parks with bombs now. That's right.
Well, in some cases we have to do some design intervention or master planning. We a lot of good selective redevelopment and surgery is how I think of a lot of what we do with existing parks. So you're not that far off from the truth, Ken.
I mean, what if they were like sports stadiums, and like every 20 or 30 years, you just tore them all out and started again,
That's true.
It's like, I'm always like, why don't these sports stadiums last? They always seem to want to build a new one, anyway.
Actually, that was while I was at Disney. That was the big thing with Anaheim Stadium. It was one of the first ones that didn't get demoed, that they took that nasty 70s multi-useless, multi-purpose NFL baseball combo and managed to somehow retrofit it into something that at least Angel fans still appreciate. So
yeah when Disney owned them for a while.
I remember the Orange County, double spread when that opened. It was welcome to, Orange County's newest theme park. They tried to market it as like a family park at the park. So,
what can you tell us about your education background? I know people often are interested in that, especially if they hear what you do and they think, well, how did you get there? I mean, is there a way for me to get there?
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, I was drawing up master plans and theme parks and future cities, when I was 12, 13 years old. I remember my very first Boy Scout merit badge. It wasn't orienteering or anything fun. It was architecture. I think
Wow.
landscape architecture was my second. So, I mean, that bug hit me pretty early on. I think I wrote my first letter to then WED Enterprises, now known as Disney Imagineering, when I was probably 13 or something, and got that cease and desist, stay in school kid rejection
Nice.
letter, basically, because I offered all this free consulting of all the things they needed to fix and improve it at Disneyland. But so I was interested in that, but
Why
I
wouldn't
actually
they jump at that?
I have no idea. It was still solid thinking. It was good.
There you go.
It's strategery. But no, I basically started down the path of following a friend, a buddy of mine, to film school, and finished up the film degree. But really, midway through that degree, I kind of, started getting bored / kind of that reigniting that interest in kind of, really more production design, creating worlds. I mean, I was really drawn towards guys like Ridley Scott, trained as an architect, turned commercial director, and then film director. That he's the guy that created Blade Runner, and just the idea of, really allowing people to step in these worlds, first 2-dimensionally and then kind of 3-dimensionally. I kind of feel like I followed Walt Disney's footsteps in a way of kind of getting bored with the 2-dimensional canvas of media or screen, and wanting to let people step into the screen. So I just remember specifically by my senior year, I was really auditing all the architecture, urban design, master planning classes that I could. And so, within a year being at Disney, I started right into my grad degree that I was lucky enough to have Disney support me through that and pay for the grad degree. So it worked out pretty great.
Nice. Yeah.
So that was, by the way, in master planning and design at Cal Poly, the same school that slackers like Bob Weiss went to, and Barbara Buza, some other Imagineers. So solid program there, because it really blends architecture, landscape architecture, master planning, branding, graphic. I mean, it really is a great multidisciplinary program within driving distance to Disneyland. So it's kind of a unique opportunity there. So.
When you hear something like
even closer at Disneyland,
like Epcot, like, the original Epcot that Walt had envisioned, like, and you being a master planner, when you look at what he wanted, and I mean, I've read several books on what he wanted and what his ideas were. As a master planner yourself, like, do you look at that and think that's maybe something that could have been possible if he had lived?
I absolutely think it would have been possible and would have been done. I think I've really studied those plans in depth. We've got. It was one of those things that sparked my my interest in the field, and really even today, we do a lot of experience design, entertainment, hospitality oriented design, but I'm also an urbanist. Town planner. I love the idea of human ecologies, and I mean, literally, I just flew in from Nashville, and we were working on a master plan out there, and really trying to think of how to not just think about entertainment components, but how do we actually not only house employees, workforce housing, but how do we actually create more than just a linear retail dining entertainment spine, but how can we actually make that a downtown of really what's going to be a new town? And so Walt Disney was definitely an inspiration for that. I mean, I feel like he learned some things in his decades of how the power of storytelling and placemaking and confused together in Imagineering, what we call spatial storytelling, and how that can really be this magnet, that this human mousetrap that draws so many people, really diverse people that normally would never hang out together, and to be able to do that for more than just a few hours a day, but to actually be able to do life together, especially in the mid 60s when he was thinking about that with the race riots tearing up our cities, and the failure of urban renewal at the time. It was really a pretty bold proposition to look at doing almost a city on the hill in the swamps of Central Florida. So that the boldness of that vision really inspires a lot of the work we do today. So I'm lucky to have gotten to do several 1,000+ acre projects in my career, including the one that really was the one that lured me away from Disney, close to the turn of the century there. So you don't get canvases like that every day, even at Disney Imagineering. So it was quite an opportunity. So.
Cool. What was one of your first projects with Disney that you had?
My first one was pretty humble one. A lot of people probably have long forgotten it. But the Disneyland Hotel, there used to be a 9-hole golf course in the area that is now the e-ticket pool. But that 9-hole golf course had turned into a inland marina, which was basically a glorified yacht, sales showroom. But when we were working on the master plan for downtown Disney, we recognized that one of the things I really personally fought for was the pedestrian connection from the existing Disneyland Hotel and the convention facilities there, straight to both the two new parks, or the new park in Disneyland, but also all the way out to Harbor Boulevard. So I really wanted that east-west connection all the way through. But a part of accomplishing all that was we had to replace the old Olympic-size Sierra pool, which was a classic mid-century modern, the original Coral Club pool, and we were handed the generous budget. I can't remember what it was, but it was basically, hey, here's the budget to do another rectangular pool, And I'm like, wow, that's rough, because we really need to have kind of a focal point for that Disney hotel that Disney had neither designed or built, or just basically one of the first high rises in Orange County. And so got to work with some really talented folks like Tony Baxter and John Stone. And we raided parade float warehouses for, Captain Hook's pirate ship, and worked with landscape architects to create the Misty Mountains and the slide down Crocodile Creek. That was that original Neverland pool, which the bones of which are still the part of that core e-ticket pool today. Unfortunately, a lot of that mesh and rock work was kind of interim and gone by the wayside. So that same team went on to do the current e-ticket pool. But I personally kind of missed that Crocodile Creek water slide. It was a fun little project. So
where Trader Sam's is now, was that building there before you started your project?
So that was the old Shipyard Inn, Wharf Bar. That was part of that original 70s kind of shingle, Fisherman's Village, Ports of Call, inspired. It was called Seaports of the Pacific. But that building is actually even older than some of those seaport buildings. So they kind of worked around that existing kitchen and infrastructure, and actually, instead of a 70s looking building, they rewound it to more of a mid-century 50s, 60s, tiki looking building. So sometimes to grab that nostalgic twinge, you have to almost like rewind the architecture a little bit. And that same approach happened with the towers, stripping off the balconies and almost kind of creating kind of more of that Mad Men mid-century modern, kind of clean mid-century look, which I think is perfect for Anaheim, because I just don't think that Disneyland would have happened or could have happened anywhere other than the orange groves of mid-century Southern California. So it's totally fitting for the one and only Disneyland Hotel to really celebrate that era, I think, and it feels like a natural.
So did that lead you into the downtown Disney project that you had worked on?
I mean, for those of us, gentlemen of a certain age, whatever, that grew up in the Disneyland Hotel, Seaports of the Pacific, the Dancing Waters, that was basically what we now call RD&E, the Retail Dining Entertainment District, of Orange County. You got to remember back then there weren't a lot of great hang spots, right? You didn't have, this is before Irvine Spectrum and the Grove and Americana brand and all those kind of places. So, we would do, I take dates out there. It was like quite the hang spot. So I had actually looked at a number of different layouts for kind of a retail dining entertainment downtown Disney district. There was, I don't, you've probably talked about the whole Westcott plan, at some point, but there was Westcott 2.0 where they took some of the, the retail dining and put it outside of the gated area. But one of the first schemes I personally worked on was actually in the middle, between Westcott getting paused out and DCA getting turned on, was asking the question of, to do a, something that felt like a Disneyland resort, and to justify new hotel rooms, could we create a downtown Disney, a retail dining entertainment spine, even if we didn't have a second park, that would at least connect the dots and connect the Disneyland Hotel. And so one of my first layouts was actually connecting the marina of the Disneyland Hotel with a water canal all the way into the rivers of America. So that's a plan that very few have ever seen, but wow, it was kind of a fun, thought exercise of, what if you did this Venice, Italy / Venice, California, postmodern Mediterranean, vertical mixed use canal, riverwalk kind of thing with direct water link, kind of very similar to the French connection, between Epcot and the Epcot resorts. So
that would have been cool.
Yeah, I thought so. They said, well, that's too architecturally limiting. So, we kind of looked at, okay, well, we could do a Hollywood backlot theme, instead of that boardwalk, kind of Venice boardwalk theme. And, I said, well, that's, flexible and cheap, sound stages. And, we could do the Indiana Jones, rainforest set for Rainforest Cafe. We could do whatever themes you want in a Disney MGM backlot, RD&E. And then, of course, they stole all of those themes and put them in DCA, the Hollywood backlot and the boardwalk, and because they were flexible but also cost effective. So that was DCA 1.0. So downtown Disney was, in a way, we were kind of almost left without a theme, and kind of went back to the original inspiration that kind of helped ignite or fuse the fire for Walt, which was Tivoli Gardens in Copenhagen. These grand European pleasure gardens, which I still find draw inspiration from on some of our projects. But so that was the gist of what we kind of internally nicknamed Vine Street, which is kind of that meandering path that takes you through downtown Disney, because we recognize that the distance that we were trying to span in terms of a pedestrian link, if you were to do a normal linear mall with that, it's about the length of at least 3 malls. Normally malls from those dumbbell anchor to anchor layouts, JCPenney's to Macy's or Nordstrom or whatever, it's about a 5-minute walk, about a quarter-mile radius, 1,300 feet. And most people don't want to walk much further than that. So what we had to do was almost kind of bend and meander that walk so that you never really realize how far it is from end to end. Because I don't know if you remember, I mean, no one at the Disneyland Hotel would ever consider walking to the front of Disneyland back in the day. If the monorail was down, people would wait, up to an hour for even the old parking lot tram. Or
they had the
monorail.
tram.
It never crossed anyone's mind to cross that black asphalt desert.
It seemed like it was so far away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And when you walk it now, I mean, I don't even know the last time I took the monorail. Most people don't even think about it. They just blow right in. So, and that's how it is growing up in Europe. I was born in Vietnam, but I actually grew up in Europe mostly. But you'll wander around, you could wander around Rome or Paris like that for, Thursday hours. And because there's something interesting around every corner, and sense of discovery and wonderment. You don't think about it. In the same way when people do Disney parks, especially like Disney World, you're clocking a couple miles a day for sure. People that don't normally walk more than a quarter mile a day are walking 5-6 miles a day. So
at least I think it's cool how you built over the old West Street, where you actually a lot of times you don't even know you're crossing over it when you're in downtown Disney.
One of my favorite things to do is take first time visitors, and I don't even mention that we're crossing over
Yeah.
Basically, something equivalent to a divided highway until we've crossed. And then I asked them, did you even notice that we crossed? And I've almost never had anyone say that they even noticed it.
Right.
That we were real concerned about that. We originally, that Disneyland Drive was called West Street, and we had what we called West of West, which was the old Disneyland Hotel,
Oh yeah.
property in the Paradise Pier hotels. But we really didn't want a retail district that was disconnected and that people would stop. We really were worried about people, crossing over. At one point in time, I almost thought we needed to do kind of a Ponte Vecchio, kind of the structure where we actually had retail on both sides to really hide the palm trees in the streets. But just the planters and the kiosks and the setbacks, really kind of hide the fact that you're crossing the street. Depressing the public street made a big difference too, depressing Disneyland Drive, so that you don't really ever get the sense that you're going up ramps and stairs. And it's very, we played with the grades. There's a lot of downtown Disney that you don't realize is actually the roof of a ground level parking garage. The valet parking, emergency services for the Grand California Hotel is actually at that ground level, and so you're on a roof there. And so by working with those grades and making it feel kind of natural, the incline, so almost inspired by a Mediterranean hill town. Las Ramblas in Barcelona was another inspiration for that. That's a great street in Barcelona that follows the course of an ancient kind of creek river, with these big London plane trees kind of meandering through the city. And so it's we were blessed to have those giant ficus trees that were part of a street widening program that we were able to get in from day one at downtown Disney and make it feel greener than it would have otherwise. So
I was in a band and we played at House of Blues a couple times, and I think that's amazing the way that's kind of lodged in there. You know how you enter the back off of West Street to enter there, and you can go
the loading docks are down below there. So we actually designed another complimentary venue that would have gone in the spot just north of that old House of Blues Splitsville location. That was going to be at one point in time, we're looking at a Latin version, kind of Rock and Rio type, Brazilian churrascaria, fire at night, ice bar, or fire by day, ice bar. I don't know, it was fire and ice somehow themed, but it's that was originally going to be, I think, the World of Disney. I'm sorry, the Disney Quest location, and so. I still am surprised that there's nothing there, but if you go over those planters, look over the edge, you'll realize you're a pretty good height above the street level there. So
was the Rainforest Cafe already in mind when you were building downtown Disney, or were they added on a little later? You know what I mean?
That was, back then, I mean, that when you think about those classic 90s themed restaurants, I mean, they were definitely part of the guys that invented that whole typology and genre. And if anything, I remember the very first kind of renderings, that whole rainforest overlay aesthetic almost, kind of dominated, because that really influenced the whole Vine Street kind of greenery, kind of this really fantastical garden walk, garden district, and all those themes really kind of stuck with the Anaheim Resort as kind of what we were thinking of it as an Anaheim Resort garden district, and then garden walk. And but that there's a really great couple of early renderings of that first vision of downtown Disney as this lush, kind of underground river feeding this kind of overgrown.
My idea now is they should theme it to a Indiana Jones themed restaurant bar thing.
I'd love that. I mean, I don't know about you, we love Jock Lindsay's Hangar Bar. And so they've shown that they can, not everything has to be tenants and lessees. You can actually create your own IP venues. I like that.
Ken, did you have a question?
Well, I wanted to mention that Lynn and I, when we'd work out in the what's called the Esplanade, it's the area between the parks, we'd often take the opportunity to go to have our lunch at the Grand Californian. And to get there, we would have to go past, by the tram loading and there's like a back door behind one of the storefronts, and go down the steps. So you're talking about the multi-level, you're going down under the structure there, you cross over, you come up some other steps, and you're inside the Grand Californian, right next to the what's that, I'm blanking on the name of the of the restaurant there, but
A tortilla.
there's the
Oh, the
main
cast
restaurant,
member.
not the Napa Rose, but the
Storytellers Cafe.
Oh yeah.
Storytellers. Yes, I know the name of the place, Storytellers. But the cast member cafeteria is connected to that, so that's where we would go to eat there, because it was, we had to walk somewhere. Unless we brought our lunch with us, we had to walk somewhere, either back to the in between or over there. And we went to go over there because good food at good prices.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Same kitchen, serving the Grand Californian guests, and
Yeah.
good crew over there. I love that spot, by the way. I love to take guests through, the Grand Californian. Definitely was a, tough nut to crack, because there's not a lot of back to that complex. I mean, you're on the public street, you're on Disneyland Drive, you're basically in the park. I mean, the hotel wings are like fingers shoved into the theme park, and so that area there where the cafe is, we call it Las Brisas Court. It's kind of this internal courtyard that's, in a way, sort of the armpit of the resort, because you're not on top of downtown Disney, you're not in the California Adventure Park, you're not looking at the Paradise Pier, Ferris wheel and stuff. So, we created that Las Brisas Court of the Winds kind of theme, which, if you look at the brick pattern, it's like brick. An Atlanta landscape architect, Roy Ashley, did this great brick pattern that looks like, just eddies kind of in the sequoia evergreen forest there, and guests love it. We actually do our company picnic there almost every year, and guests just love it because it feels like you're in the Sierras. You totally forget that the interstate, freeway is, 100 something yards, like right over there. But that, and we had the monorail whisking through that. They have the mechanical units of the air conditioners. So there's all this white noise. But we used all that negative of that white mechanical noise in the monorail, and we just said, oh, it's a mountain breeze. And so it actually worked great. You can always smell the cooking at the Cast Cafe there too, in that courtyard, if you're looking for it.
But
great. It's a sweet spot.
So from there, were you still at Disney after that project, or was that kind of your last thing with Disney?
Yeah, no, I spent the Disney decade there. I figured a decade of Disney brain damage was enough. No, I left right before all that stuff was opening. It was still under construction. And then we started Storyland Studios right after 9/11, 2001. But I left to pursue some other projects. Actually, one of my grad professors made me an offer I couldn't refuse, but I had a chance to play with some large, canvases from the Morongo Resort, heading towards Palm Springs to master plan new towns and some other stuff. So it was a great way to kind of take, the lessons I had learned at Disney. And, actually my graduate thesis was on kind of applying lessons from Disney towards real world urbanism, and looking at how does that apply in beyond the berm, if you will. This idea of what if form didn't just follow function, like modern architecture, and kind of minimalist, less is more architecture. What if form followed fiction? Actually, that's really, it wasn't a new idea to me. It was a classic ancient idea, because throughout history, architecture and placemaking, especially at the scale of cities and theme parks, and they're embedding values of the culture. Winston Churchill had a great quote that we shape our buildings, and then forever after they shape us. And so anyways, it was just kind of getting back into the potential for the power of storytelling that's always been embedded in spaces and places, and architecture and placemaking. And so it's kept us pretty busy for the last 20 plus years. So
that's cool. So you started that, and how many employees do you have now that work there?
We during COVID, we doubled in size. So I think we went from 60 to 120. I mean, it was just one of the things that for us was a benefit. Wasn't great for the industry generally, but neither was 9/11 when we started. For us, the simple thing about that was, we were working on the SoFi Stadium, so fortunately we never had to close our doors. That was considered essential infrastructure by our great governor of California. But so not having to shut down was helpful. But number two, we went to a work from anywhere policy, and we opened a London office that serves our EMEA market, Europe, Middle East, Africa, and that's blown up. Got partners in a Asia office, and then within the U.S., pretty good little exodus out of California. I had dinner last night actually with one of our senior producers that is in Nashville. We've got people in Orlando and Arizona and Oregon, you name it, pretty evenly distributed. So that I didn't realize personally what a barrier. I always thought to be creative, you had to have everyone crammed on top of each other, because that's what, the ecosystem I grew up in. And apparently people, there's other, through the gift of technology and some intentionality in terms of cultural architecture, we've been able to grow, but still kind of keep the unique spirit and DNA that we've really tried to, we've heard a great compliment, I think by Tony Baxter was, he said, it really reminds them of Walt Disney Imagineering Wed, when it was Walt's Happy Place, kind of the golden era, where there was still kind of this family feeling. And so that's kind of not by accident, something we've really trying to be intentional about and create. So
wait, you have a work from anywhere thing going on?
We do. Yeah, that's
okay. Do you have any openings?
we're always hiring. So we definitely have openings.
Do you need a voice guy? Or,
I obviously do, because you've got a
public
great
affairs
voice.
guy. You need a spokesperson, a public affairs guy. I could do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I think we have one of our senior creative directors, Johnny D. He's the voice of the place, because he's got that great, voice. So he's like on most of our media. But it's a quite a motley crew that we have. It takes everything from artists to architects, artisans to accountants, to pull this stuff off. And people don't realize that, Disney Imagineering, I would explain, architecture is only one of over 130 different disciplines. And
right,
we don't have 130 different disciplines, but we've got dozens and dozens. So we have always been on the lookout. We've tried to have a really intentional slow growth policy, believe it or not, because we really are about this family culture. And so we've tried to just really grow relatively slowly over the years, and avoid the big hire fire kind of expand contract thing that's fairly typical with our industry. But we've got a great network we call the Global Creative Collective, and my co-host on the Themed Attraction podcast, little plug there, is Skipper Freddie Martin. He actually is a kind of a creative catalyst leader of that Global Creative Collective. So being friends with a lot of great collaborators around the world is also helpful, as far as not needing to do those rounds of hire and fire. So
were you still able to, do you still do like theme park or theme park attractions or anything like that still?
We do. We're probably designing over $10 billion of those kind of things as we speak. Yeah, I'm not sure if anybody else is doing as many as we are currently. So we've it's we're hopping. So I'd say we've got a couple in the US, we've got couple in the Middle East. I mean, Africa. We're pretty busy, so got a good team.
What are some projects in the U.S. that you've done in theme parks?
Well, I could talk about the Nashville one, because that was announced. We are we're finalizing a new site that is yet to be announced, but that's a special one for us. It's got a unique kind of cause-oriented, literacy-based kind of motivation behind it. Our developer client is a really amazing visionary who just believes in the power of reading, literacy, and the power of words to create worlds, and wants to let people, and especially kids and their families, step into stories that have stood the test of time, stories from the four corners of the world. And so that's an adventure. So like I said, literally just landed today from
Cool.
a multi-day charrette on that one. We've been working on that for a few years, and was able to meet the county commissioner of the site that we're looking to locate in. And then we've got other projects that have yet to be announced, in addition to the work, of course, that we've done with the existing operators from Cedar Fair, from our local here, Knott's Berry Farm, to to other clients that have solid NDAs. So we've generally been able to be everybody's best kept, secret weapon. We're comfortable in that role. We're not out there, doing paid advertisements or whatever. We keep busy just with the referrals and friends of friends. So
well, that's great. Yeah.
That's kind of the unique nature of our industry, right? We don't get the screen credits that company feature film teams or animation teams. So we have our internal support group, the Themed Entertainment Association, and so we just hand out awards to ourselves. So this is the week that we're recording. This is actually our Themed Entertainment Association annual. Used to be called the Summit. Now it's called Inspire. Which is held at the Disneyland Hotel every year, and we have a couple days of getting together. And started that when it was just a couple of business owners around one table, but now it's grown into a bigger deal, and we have the awards, which is our kind of our own internal Oscar awards. We get to go to theme park prom and put on some tuxes, and
that's cool.
That's a week from now, so we're excited about that.
You mentioned other companies within the business. I always just think of Universal, Disney in the United States are some of the bigger ones. And I always think it's good that they kind of, in a way, compete, because we're the ones that get the benefits from it, because I think when Universal stepped up with Harry Potter, and then Disney was like, "Uh-oh, we got to do something," and they did. Was it Radio Cars Land? I think that was their response to that, and Galaxy's Edge, of course. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're right. Fans definitely win on that, and it's funny how much passion some fans get of Disney versus Universal versus Six Flags or what almost like their football teams. But yeah, you're absolutely right. As an industry, it's not only great in terms of greenlighting required CapEx, capital expenditure expansions, that quote arms race, just like the roller coaster wars.
I'm going to go back to the resort upgrade, the Disneyland resort upgrade. We were there. Lynn and I were both working there when that happened. And to me, the strongest part of that was the kind of, downtown Disney and the Grand Californian. California Adventure 1.0 was the weakest part of that. But to be fair, you look at what parks have opened up with originally. I mean, what did the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World open up with in 1971? I mean, people would be shocked at what wasn't there.
Yeah, no Big Thunder, no Space Mountain, not a single coaster, no Pirates.
Yeah, and you open up like Walt Disney Studios Paris, or I mean, things grow. They grow. They're the same. Epcot opened up. Epcot, I should say Epcot Center. I draw a distinction between Epcot Center and Epcot. But that things that weren't there right away, and they added them in. Just the strength of downtown Disney and the Grand Californian, and just the difference between Florida. I know that it's Disney Springs now, but you walk out of either park and there it is. You don't have to take a bus to get to it, and it forms your walkway. If you're staying at the hotels, or maybe you're going to be walking back to your car, it's there. It's all there. It's just this nice, no more huge black asphalt expanse. It's this densely occupied area. So,
Well, Ken, I don't know if
no,
you're interviewing for my publicist PR guy, but you're definitely preaching my love language, man, to the choir. I mean, that is
I'll hold you to that.
yeah, I really appreciate the words because I do feel like with whatever from the fan perspective, the bashing of DCA 1.0 and especially in comparison to the Disney Seas park in Tokyo that was getting designed and developed and had multiple X the budget that the California team had.
Right.
But at the end of the day, in my mind, you nailed it. What we had to do, it was non-optional, and everyone understood this from executive management to the city to just anyone involved with the negotiation. We had to clean the city up. I mean, we literally had to save this the former Anaheim commercial recreation zone because you had this unique in the mid-centuries or in the 60s, this unique idea of this 1,100 acre zone that would just be motels and tourist oriented businesses, but it had really turned into hookers walking up and down the street, and you could get a hotel room with a kitchenette unit. You could rent it by the hour for the with a hooker. You could rent it by the month for families getting ready to be homeless. I mean, a lot of my local church, there was a lot of churches that had ministries for all the motel kids of Anaheim, and it was I mean, there was stray bullets coming out of the Jeffrey Lynn neighborhood right behind the Disneyland Hotel. I mean, bullets going through the glass of the Disneyland Hotel. Almost missing Gus in the head. I mean, so a lot of that stuff was kept out of the public, but it was going to hell in a handbasket. So I mean, when Walt Disney called it a third-rate Las Vegas Strip and was ready to just be so disgusted that he had to buy the 45 square miles in Florida, it was looking a lot better than it was when I got there in 1990. And so, again, to do that radical of a cleanup, to cast a vision that, the city, the public leaders, the private stakeholders of all the surrounding hotels and motels, that everyone could act. I mean, how hard do you think it is to get behind tearing down your gigantic grandfathered big neon sign to put, kind of an Irvine tasteful monument, garden district monument sign, but to cast that vision of a garden district, the redevelopment of these 1,100 acres, 2 square miles, only half of which Disney owned, by the way, and to kind of clean all that stuff up, to present a little bit more of a cohesive experience. I just remember when I first started at Disney, when I was still in film school at the Disneyland Hotel, people would check in at Disneyland Hotel right after Disney had acquired it, and before they had a chance to remodel it. And you literally have this facility that the Rather family had been squeezing the cash out of about $100 million a year for years to fund all this other stuff. Money pits like the Queen Mary and all this other stuff, so it just hadn't been reinvested in. So you had people that had just come in from the Grand Floridian, in Florida, and of course they want to stay at the best hotel in Anaheim, and they assume it would be the Disneyland Hotel, the tallest, biggest. At one point at the time, it had 1,600 rooms, 150,000 square foot convention center, and they would get there, and it'd be ratted carpets, rats in the room, the James Bond carpet walls, the lobby looked cool on opening day, but 30 years later, it was looking pretty ratty. So, that just meeting the expectations, and so. We knew we couldn't compete in terms of scale of having the vast acreage that's out there in Florida. But to me, the idea of doing kind of almost a European human scaled, walkable, almost urbane experience where you could actually go down your elevator. I remember one of the ads was take the elevator home tonight. And I always love that, the idea that you could be in the park and just take the elevator home and live the dream of being in the magic, even to the point of figuring out how to do one of the world's first theme park hotels that's actually really embedded into the park with the Grand Californian, even more so than the Paris Disneyland Hotel that was at the front gate, or even the Miracosta in Tokyo. That's really your front berm. It's really just the Grand Californian is great because it blocks out the towers of the Disneyland Hotel and the Paradise Pier from within the Grizzly Creek area. But you're in it, and it just extends the theme, because why wouldn't there be a National Park Architecture Lodge in a national park themed area? of the park. So yeah, really proud of some of the heavy lifting that happened, and again, some of it's fairly complex. I mean, you're talking vertical urban design, vertical mixed use. I mean, where we were talking about that area below the Grand Californian where you've got subterranean. It's not even subterranean, but you've got that level of parking. You've got on the podium there, you've got the downtown Disney ground level retail, and then you have lodging, above it with Disney Vacation Club and hotel, 4+ star hotel rooms. And Disney really hasn't done that level, even though Walt Disney, I think, died being a wannabe urban planner. The Walt Disney Company really has done a lot of horizontal master planning and almost pretty suburban sprawl with Florida and the Val de Europe project. But in terms of true vertical mixed use, some of the stuff we did with Grand California Downtown Disney is about as urban, complicated, almost Manhattan type vertical mixed use as you get. So in a lot of ways, that was almost truer to some of Walt Disney's thoughts of Epcot, and certainly true of one of his biggest influences, an Austrian architect named Victor Gruen, who invented the shopping mall and really created the blueprint that Walt Disney was ready to follow with the Epcot City concept of. And so, one of those things was the way that you handle the cars, by doing that direct HOV lane right into the world's largest parking garage. You get rid of the cars and you enter into this pedestrian oasis. So, pretty unprecedented at the time. So,
well, yeah, as an Anaheim resident and homeowner, it's just, I like driving down Harbor Boulevard in the Anaheim Resort District, just marveling at, because I remember what it was like before.
Yeah.
And just marveling at it and marveling at the growth and the beauty of it and stuff like that. It's just so different than what it had been. I mean, I know there's a lot of people. I mean, they're building Disneyland in the middle of nowhere. I know the surrounding area was largely undeveloped. I mean, it was, farming area. And I'm sure I remember stories of Walt Disney urging people he knew to buy land, because he couldn't do it. Everything was going into the park, and just some of those people just kicking themselves later,
Well, funny thing is
somebody else took the opportunity.
Yeah, one of those guys is Art Linkletter, and the ironic thing is he instead bought land in Hemet and developed. My mother-in-law actually lives in an Art Linkletter developed senior mobile home park. So he apparently thought that was a better investment than investing in Anaheim, which I know he kicked himself, for. But one of the things that I just love, in that walk, drive around there, it's just seeing all the pedestrians on the street, because that, for those of us that remember pre-Disneyland Resort, all the people on the harbor motels, if you wanted to, do you remember they used to have they had a big wrought iron fence up, on the median on Harbor Boulevard?
Oh yeah,
because people would try to run back to their motel and run to McDonald's, and it was like playing Frogger. People would get run over or whatever, and so they wanted people to be at a hotel, like right, and you're seeing Matterhorn right there, and they had to take a shuttle to cross the street. It's just really environmentally irresponsible and logistically a nightmare. And we just thought, it really would be great to just actually create an opening onto Harbor Boulevard. And anyway, so glad that all happened. I know that when they were going to do the East Garage, that whole thing was one of the reasons that went south, because they were trying to reinstitute that whole security screening bubble thing. Anyways, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
Well, there is they've talked about Disneyland Forward, and there's still space to grow, especially if you do multi-level things, multi-level parking structures, mixed use. You can do things that have stores and restaurants on the lower levels, and then hotel rooms on the upper levels, and all that sort of thing. I mean, Disney can still do a lot more in Anaheim. People would be surprised at how much they could do there if they really wanted to.
Well, absolutely. I mean, cities to me are like growing living organisms, and they really healthy organic cities are supposed to grow and adapt and actually mature over time. And it's just a weird thing of American suburbanism and suburbia that we think, oh, once they build a tract house, it's supposed to be that until forever. Once you build that strip mall, it's supposed to be that until now forever. But the reality is, in Orange County, I mean, residual land values are well over $1 million an acre. Anytime I see a surface lot, I'm thinking that that's just a green field of dreams. Basically, that's basically going to be an interim use because economics don't make sense to have that just remain as a surface lot. So you're right. Densification, multi-use layering. Who even knows? I mean, autonomous vehicles in the future, whether we even need the parking spaces that we already have, even the structured spaces. So definitely plenty of elbow room, plenty of options for growth, and some of that was already in the Disneyland Resort zoning entitlement stuff. But what the Disneyland Forward plan is really going to give them is just way more flexibility. Back then we thought just having a parking district and a theme park district and a RD&E district was enough kind of flexibility that we could dream within those kind of flexible bubbles. But nowadays, you think of something like I don't know, like the Galactic Star Cruiser. Is that a theme park? Is it a entertainment? Is it food and beverage? Is it a hotel? Yes, it's all that. Like,
yeah.
So the idea of just blurring those old suburban land use kind of categories and just really letting you just step into stories, whether it's for a few hours or a few days, and with Disney Story living in Palm Springs for a few decades, and now living in the story, that's keeping us all busy, because it's really just really different than just the old model of, hey, I gotta pay $100 to do that Death March e-ticket marathon just for 8 hours to get my money's worth, and I can only afford to do that once a year. So there's so many more options with different configurations and different typologies.
I'd like to see a third park in Anaheim, but I know the demand's definitely there.
Yeah, I would say that is probably one of the most fundamental differences in terms of my era. When Disney saw what Epcot did, that second gate, and when they saw what that did in terms of increasing length of stay, and for the public agencies, the hotel bed tax, and which is really what funded that whole cleanup of Anaheim. The idea of a second park, a third park, a fourth park to really create that bubble where vacationers, with the Magic Express in Florida, where you got them from the airport and they never even thought about leaving your bubble, and you captured their full per capita spend. It almost seems like there's this aversion now. I mean, after doing those kind of half day second parks, with Walt Disney Studios Paris, and it almost they felt like because that Walt Disney Studios Paris was almost contractually required of them in Europe, but I think there's a sense that especially in Florida, it's almost like, I don't know if you play the game Risk. It's almost like the more parks you have, it's like your weakest link in the chain that Universal can basically peel people off for a day, right? Because if Disney has a Studios park and that's not as strong or stronger than the new Universal park with the Diagon Alley or whatever, then okay, now you've allowed people to leak out of your bubble and into the competitor, whether it's for a day or, of course, now even longer. So it's almost like they've had to shore up the parks that they've had, especially those quote half day parks, so that it's a really solid, gap. But I mean, of course, Universal's still in that mode of we want to be a new center of gravity and viable alternative vacation. Which again, for a fan, it's awesome because I could definitely have a lot of fun regardless of which product you think is better. They're certainly different, and you could definitely do a full Universal vacay and a full Disney World vacation, and it's just almost could be irrelevant that the two parks are 30 minutes from each other, or the two resorts are because each of them are full and complete. they're certainly going to be full and complete destinations in and of themselves.
Right. And then you have Texas now with Universal.
Well, that's something we're excited about. I mean,
Yeah.
we love the regional theme park industry. We think it got kind of, went down a path of steel, hardware and roller coasters and, roaming bands of zombie teenagers seeking their next adrenaline injection.
Right.
And so that was an era, but we love the regional park business model. There's so many families that used to enjoy those and kind of were turned away, and so it's been a joy to look at some of those parks, some really great parks, especially that Cedar Fair has, and be able to kind of build on those strong bones and bring them back to life and make them well-rounded, and we're looking to do that with some other partners. So we love that, and the fact that the big boys, i.e. Especially Universal, are looking at that as well. To me, it makes perfect sense, because I mean, you've got to me, those kind of things can definitely even feel more. It's not like you're going to do that instead of doing a airplane trip or a vacation Disney World. To me, it totally really can kind of get you even more excited to grow up and to step in those stories at a larger scale. So
for sure. Yeah. Well, Mel, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, and always love talking to you.
Likewise. Appreciate you guys.
Update our listeners as to what you're doing. I mean, if you want to plug anything, or we talked a little bit about it.
It's just a joy and a frustration. Our industry being everyone's best kept secret. Most of the vast majority of our work is under NDAs, so you can't really talk about a lot of the stuff that you're currently working on or currently excited about. But definitely check out StorylandStudios.com. A lot of our work that we are allowed to share is certainly posted there, as well as the job openings. We also are excited because we get to do a lot of unique kind of purpose-driven, cause-oriented work for a lot of nonprofits. So that's just a personal passion, joy of mine. I've gotten to design and develop, kind of a whole village for survivors of child sex trafficking in Southeast Asia. We've done some just really unique projects around the world. And then, with our themed attraction.com podcast, it's been great with Skipper Freddie, just again, having our fellow designers, developers. We try to have a lot of mix to really expose, especially next generation kind of Imagineers and spatial storytellers, kind of the full range of disciplines in our industry. So we've had Themed Entertainment Association Masters on there, guys like Tony Baxter, Tom Morris, Imagineering vets. But we've tried to have a little bit of an international crowd, from Europe, and guys from, we just had, I think our latest episode was a art director from Europa Park, from, my old stomping grounds of the Black Forest in Germany. So, definitely love to stay connected. I'm my Instagram is at Visioneer. And I'm usually posting from a different spot every week, because I travel a bit. I get to come home once a week though, usually. So
nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, great.
I appreciate the invite. I've been a fan and listener for years. Love your little ditty intro. It's one of those earworms that I can't get out of my head once I've heard it. So
great. We'll definitely have you back on. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for coming on and sharing all that. That was great.
Sounds good. Next time I'm going to learn it on my ukulele, and we can sing it together.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. Okay. Wow. What a show.
Yeah. I say it a lot. I could talk with Mel for a long time.
For sure.
Really, there's a lot of connection there as far as just overall approach to the design of the resort and the surrounding area, and it's just fascinating stuff to me, really.
Yeah, it really is. So thank you to Mel for coming on again onto our show. This is where we usually read reviews for our podcasts, which are posted on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. Don't have any to read right now. Haven't had any.
Yeah, so we're just going to sit here in silence for a while and punish you for not writing a review. No, I'm just
Yeah, our Ken will start singing. No.
Yeah, you don't want that. You don't want me to start singing. Then if there's still no reviews, I'm going to start dancing, and you really don't want to see that. So write a review. It would be very helpful. It helps people find the podcast, and you of course want other people to find the podcast, so you feel like you're not the only person who has to put up with us. But but spread the word. It's just an easy way to help us out. Some people, you listen for free, you can't donate to us. Totally understand that. Another way you can help out is just writing a review, spreading the word that we're here.
Sounds good. For information on our podcast, our books, and everything else, you can go to thesweetspot.com and check everything out there.
Remember, we are the #1 Disneyland podcast, hosted by 2 former Disneyland Custodial Foremen.
That's right. All right. We'll talk with you next time.